ever contemplated the complex interplay of factors that exacerbate the human poverty crisis? This query invites an exploration of the multifaceted nature of poverty. Essentially, poverty extends beyond financial scarcity. It encapsulates the absence of basic human necessities and opportunities. This includes not just a lack of monetary resources, but the inability to access clean water, sufficient nutrition, healthcare, and secure shelter. Furthermore, it encompasses societal exclusion, political disenfranchisement, despair. Income poverty, one of the most recognized forms, occurs when an individual or a household's earnings fail to provide for basic needs like nutrition, accommodation, and clothing. This is a harsh reality for many who find themselves having to prioritize their essential needs. At the same time, material poverty denotes the deficiency of tangible resources vital for a reasonable standard of living, such as clean water, sanitation, secure housing, and healthcare. Scene script insufficiency is a prevalent form characterized by restricted access to quality schooling. The scarcity of educational institutions, proficient educators, and necessary resources hampers personal and professional growth. Health disadvantage reflects the limited availability of healthcare facilities, elevating the risk of disease susceptibility and premature mortality. Nutritional disparity is defined by inadequate access to wholesome food, contributing to malnutrition, growth retardation, and micronutrient inadequacies. Scene script. Social poverty encapsulates the absence from social connections and bias due to diverse factors like gender, race, or ethnicity, leading to feelings of ostracization and impotence. Political impoverishment is characterized by restrained involvement in governing procedures, inadequate representation, and inequitable justice accessibility. Lastly, psychological deprivation is linked to the deficiency in emotional backing, self-regard, and mental wellness, often stemming from deep-seated trauma, conflict, or persistent stress factors. In the realm of economics, a variety of indicators and methodologies gauge poverty. Firstly, we utilize income-based measures. These parameters assess poverty by examining personal or familial income levels in contrast to an established poverty threshold. Key indicators encompass MAA poverty line. Essentially, this is the income threshold below which an individual or a family is categorized as impoverished. Poverty rate, indicative of the proportion of the population living below the poverty line. Next, consumption-based measures focus on consumption patterns rather than earnings, providing a more precise understanding of living standards, particularly in low-income scenarios where income data may not be reliable. We also employ relative measures for poverty evaluation, using the overall income or wealth distribution in society as a reference. Common indicators include the Gini coefficient and the income or wealth of the bottom X% of the population. In contrast, absolute measures evaluate poverty based on a fixed standard of living, independent of the overall income or wealth distribution, typically setting a poverty benchmark based on the cost of essential goods and services. The poverty gap is a significant measure that quantifies the depth of poverty by calculating the average income deficit of those beneath the poverty line. The headcount ratio provides a simple count of individuals in poverty, estimating the portion of the population below the poverty line. Lastly, composite indices merge various poverty indicators into one index, such as the Human Development Index, HDI, or the Multidimensional Poverty Index, MPI, providing a holistic view of poverty by considering multiple dimensions of well-being. Each of these measurement techniques has strengths and limitations. Economists often employ a combination of these measures for a well-rounded understanding of poverty to guide policy interventions. Welcome to a refreshed perspective on our poverty examination. This section delves into the United Nations Development Programme's UNDP poverty indices. These instruments are indispensable in and tackling poverty universally. Our exploration commences with the Human Development Index, HDI. This index gauges a nation's average accomplishments in 3 quintessential human development dimensions: health, education, and living standards. The HDI encapsulates these critical components of human life, presenting a holistic view of a country's developmental status. Following the HDI, we have the Multidimensional Poverty Index, MPI. This index delves deeper than income or consumption levels, pinpointing multiple deprivations at the household and individual levels in health, education, and living standards. Lastly, we examine the Gender Inequality Index, GII. The GII, the Human Development Toll of Gender Inequality, echoing women's disadvantages in 3 dimensions: reproductive health, empowerment, and the labor market. The indices, conceived by the UNDP, offer insightful perspectives on the various aspects of poverty and human development. They equip policymakers to prioritize interventions, monitor progress, and ensure inclusivity in the path towards sustainable development. As we persist in our poverty examination, remember, comprehending these measures is a pivotal stride towards a world where dignity and opportunity are irrespective of individual circumstances. In our final video, we explore the multifaceted nature of poverty, encompassing not only financial difficulties and material deprivation, but also societal exclusion and emotional distress. We've detailed the various dimensions of impoverishment, such as income inequality, scarce resources, societal detachment, and psychological suffering. Additionally, we've examined a range of metrics to measure impoverishment, encompassing income assessment, consumption indicators, multidimensional gauges, and individual perspectives. Recognizing these diverse elements of poverty is paramount in devising effective strategies to mitigate poverty and ensure a life of dignity for. As we delve into the complex issue of poverty, it's essential to recognize the significant role of statistical methods in poverty reduction efforts. These techniques play a silent yet vital role, equipping policymakers with tools to identify vulnerable groups, strategize interventions precisely, and track progress. Begin with poverty mapping, a visual representation of poverty levels achieved by leveraging geospatial data and statistical techniques. The resulting insights facilitate the development of region-focused strategies to tackle impoverishment. Moving on to targeting mechanisms, techniques like proxy means testing, community-oriented targeting, and participatory wealth ranking help identify individuals or households deserving of social assistance programs. These mechanisms ensure that aid is directed toward those who need it most, minimizing the potential for resource misallocation. Impact evaluation, a key component, utilizes statistical techniques such as randomized controlled trials, RCTs, and quasi-experimental methods to measure the effectiveness of poverty reduction programs. This assessment allows for the refinement of these initiatives for optimal benefit. The role of data analysis in policy design is also crucial. By statistically analyzing survey data, administrative records, and other data sources, policymakers can uncover the root causes of poverty. This knowledge is invaluable in designing interventions that address poverty at its core. Finally, monitoring and evaluation involve the routine collection and analysis of poverty-related data, assisting in tracking progress towards poverty alleviation goals and assessing the efficacy of policy strategies. In conclusion, statistical methods equip policymakers with the necessary tools to understand, strategize, and tackle poverty effectively. By employing these techniques, we can contribute to enhancing the well-being and quality of life for vulnerable groups, taking us one step closer to our objective of eradicating poverty. As we delve deeper into the intricacies of poverty, we shift our focus towards the significance of poverty alleviation metrics. These metrics possess the invaluable ability to precisely encompass the breadth and nature of poverty, inform policy strategies, and track advancements towards poverty reduction objectives. Our first point of discussion is the holistic understanding. Indices that incorporate the multifaceted aspects of poverty, such as the multidimensional poverty index, offer a balanced understanding of poverty that transcends the confines of merely income levels. We contemplate targeting precision, metrics that pinpoint susceptible populations, like targeting mechanisms extracted from statistical analysis or poverty mapping, ensure optimal channeling of resources, thus bolstering the efficiency of aid distribution. Subsequently, we scrutinize progress tracking. Crucial indicators like poverty rates, income distribution, and access to essential services function as key benchmarks for tracing progress towards poverty reduction objectives, thereby steering our strategies in the right direction. Fourthly, we evaluate the effectiveness of policies. Metrics facilitating impact assessment, such as randomized controlled trials or quasi-experimental methods, aid policymakers engaging the efficacy of poverty alleviation initiatives, allowing for indispensable modifications and enhancements. Finally, we broach the subject of participation and empowerment. Metrics that integrate participatory methodologies like community-based targeting or participatory wealth ranking ensure active community involvement in constructing and implementing poverty alleviation interventions. This not only emboldens them, but also augments the sustainability and effectiveness of the interventions. In conclusion, the significance of poverty alleviation metrics lies in their capacity to deliver precise, all-encompassing, and actionable insights. These insights direct policy strategies, optimize resource allocation, track progress, and encourage community participation in the process of enhancing their own welfare. By comprehending and employing these metrics, we can make substantial progress towards our objective of eliminating poverty. While poverty alleviation metrics are crucial for shaping policy interventions and monitoring progress, they are not without areas for improvement. The first area for enhancement pertains to their propensity towards an exclusive focus on income. Conventional poverty metrics often singularly consider income levels, neglecting other significant aspects of well-being such as health, education, and social inclusion. This leads to the second point for advancement: subjectivity and indeterminacy. Poverty thresholds and indicators utilized in these measurements can be arbitrary, potentially neglecting the varied needs and experiences individuals or communities. The third facet for improvement involves the dependence on aggregate data. Reliance on aggregated data in poverty metrics may conceal disparities within populations and overlook the experiences of marginalized or vulnerable groups. The fourth area for enhancement relates to the insufficient consideration of the informal economy. Conventional poverty metrics may fail to sufficiently consider the economic activities and living conditions those engaged in the informal economy. The fifth point for progress revolves the narrow focus on structural factors. These metrics often concentrate on individual or household traits without comprehensively addressing systemic factors such as unequal resource distribution, social exclusion, and finally, the need for a dynamic perspective. Current metrics often offer a static snapshot of poverty at a singular point in time, inadequately capturing fluctuations in poverty levels and dynamics over time. Addressing these areas for improvement calls for a more inclusive and nuanced approach to poverty measurement, one that recognizes the multidimensional nature of poverty, amplifies the voices and experiences of marginalized groups, and confronts fundamental structural factors contributing to poverty and inequality. Addressing the critiques from the previous scene, a range of creative strategies have emerged to mitigate poverty. These approaches, recognizing poverty's complex nature, are designed to enhance the lives of individuals and societies. Primarily, we find social safety nets, non-compulsory transfer schemes for those most in need, offering shelter from unpredictability, livelihood backing, and human capital expansion. They manifest in diverse forms like conditional cash transfers and school feeding initiatives. Following this, we consider education and skills development, which emphasize the delivery of quality education and vocational training to empower individuals with the necessary tools for securing worthy employment. Then we delve into healthcare access and services, aiming to establish comprehensive health coverage, better access to superior health services, and minimize health-related financial stress on the disadvantaged. Moreover, livelihood support and economic empowerment initiatives, such as microfinance programs and small business aid, focus on bettering income and productivity. Infrastructure development follows, ensuring the delivery of basic services like clean water, sanitation, and transport facilities to uplift living standards and stimulate economic activities. We also explore social protection policies, designed to alleviate vulnerability, disparity, and poverty through measures like unemployment benefits. Lastly, empowerment and social inclusion strategies strive to foster participation, inclusion, and equality by tackling societal exclusion and power imbalances. These progressive strategies embody a comprehensive and thoughtful approach to poverty alleviation, addressing both the symptoms and deep-seated causes of poverty.